Ganon would make another appearance at the end of the linked game duality of Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. As it would turn out, the main villain Twinrova sought to revive the evil king. Link is able to stop them from sacrificing Zelda, so Twinrova uses herself as the final piece and Ganon is revived, but something's wrong. This is the beginning of Ganon being depicted as little more than a mindless beast whose only desire is to destroy everything. This would, for better or for worse, become the default characterization for classic Demon Pig Ganon going forward. It worked here because it showed how badly botched the resurrection was, but one thing people seem to forget, upon defeating him, Ganon seems to regain some clarity. After that, Ganondorf would be teased in the opening for Super Smash Bros. Melee, as the opening segment focused on the Legend of Zelda would depict his hand alongside Link and Zelda's when representing the Triforce. Ganondorf was a surprise, unlockable secret character, but unfortunately Ganondorf was apparently a very last-minute addition to the game, so he was just made into a Captain Falcon clone, which doesn't really fit his character. All of the other clones in the game made a degree of sense for who they were a clone of, but not Ganondorf since he has no connection whatsoever to Captain Falcon, and unfortunately this has inhibited him in the series since. With the release of the Wind Waker, Ganondorf would return to prominence as the main villain. In fact, the game tells you right away that he is the main villain. The opening tells of how hundreds of years after the Hero of Time defeated him, Ganon was able to escape from the Sacred Realm, and made good on his promise to make the descendants of those who defeated him pay. The people of Hyrule beg for the Hero of Time to return and save them. The people would pray to the goddesses for help, and they would respond by flooding the land of Hyrule, telling those to flee to the mountaintops. Ganondorf and his army would be frozen in time at the bottom of the sea. Now let's imagine that, for an untold amount of time, Ganondorf is frozen in time and sealed away once again. But I imagine his mind was still working. All he could think about was escaping to the world above and finish what he had started. Eventually he was able to break this seal as well and escape to the world above. He had to find Princess Zelda and her Triforce. He's first properly glimpsed in the game when he orders the Helmark King to throw Link into the ocean. And it's interesting how, despite appearing entirely as Ganondorf, he's called Ganon by many characters, suggesting the two names are interchangeable to an extent. Midway through the game, Link will make it to the top of the Forsaken Fortress, where Ganondorf awaits the hero. Those lines would confuse Link, but Ganondorf likely recognizes the spirit of the hero who defeated him last time. Ganondorf makes it clear to Link that he has the advantage this time as the Master Sword's blade is dull and lost its power to repel evil. Link is only saved by the timely arrival of Tetra, who Ganondorf realizes is Princess Zelda. The scene is really awesome, and Valoo toasting Ganondorf's lair is a sight to behold. He's next seen in the tower back in Hyrule after having captured Zelda. However, in a very curious move, Ganondorf just asks Link to wait and listen. Ganondorf has had time to reflect on the centuries he's spent frozen. All those years he ravaged Hyrule, and to rule over what? A frozen land at the bottom of the sea? Ganondorf sees Link as a worthy opponent, the boy in green who defeated him last time, but yet, in some way, Ganondorf seems to know that this is the last dance for him. When Link reaches the top, Ganondorf speaks of his life living in the desert, how the wind would carry the same thing, death. Yet, when he traveled to Hyrule, the wind offered something else. It seems Ganondorf may have originally had noble goals as he wanted to save his people from dying, but as time went on, power corrupted him, and as they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Granted, this interpretation gets muddled with what Skyward Sword revealed, but that story wasn't a thing when this game came out. Ganondorf is able to knock Link out, and finally what he's desired since the Triforce split back when he first entered the Sacred Realm is in his hands. He's about to make his wish, but he makes the mistake of speaking his wish before he touches the Triforce. Definitely a DON'T moment. Yet, as the waves come crashing down, all Ganondorf can do is laugh. His dreams and ambitions are undone, but despite that, he can kill Link and Zelda as one last spiteful act to the king. The final battle against Ganondorf is the most atmospheric yet, as waves come crashing down the washaway Hyrule. He's not particularly hard as the fight is entirely scripted. He doesn't kill Zelda, even though it would have benefited him to do so. But Ganondorf in this fight is just a rabid dog that needs to be put down. Like the king, Ganondorf is a relic of the past, bound to Hyrule, but unlike the king, he couldn't let it go. And what remains of Ganondorf is washed away. While Ocarina of Time showed the man becoming the monster, Wind Waker focuses more on the man. It was a sad thing to happen, but he was still evil and thus needed to be stopped. This was the most complex that Ganon had ever been betrayed before, bringing a rationale to the things he's done rather than just desiring conquest. The following year, Ganon will return as the surprise villain of Four Swords Adventures. This was to become a trend again. You think a new villain is taking over, but nope, it's Ganon who is behind it. In what seems to be a retread of his Ocarina of Time backstory, Ganondorf is mentioned but never seen. This game would actually seem to explain how Ganon got his trident, but it would seem to indicate that this was a new Ganon and not the one we'd known previously. But he'd finally make his debut after Vaiti was defeated. The final boss against him is all about using the Four Link's combined attacks at the right time. Of course, at the end you have to protect Zelda so you can seal him inside the Four Sword. I have to wonder if he ever got out of this since this takes place after the next game, although I doubt that it had been decided upon at the time. During all the build-up to Twilight Princess, people wondered if Ganon would be in it, which Nintendo confirmed he would be. The game takes place in the child timeline, where after returning to his childhood, Link warned Zelda and the king of Ganondorf's plan. In fact, his very first scene tells us this. Ganondorf was caught, exposed, and sentenced to execution for his treason. It's probably one of the darkest, most intense scenes in Zelda history, and it's the first time Ganondorf kills somebody on screen. Sealed away in the Twilight Realm, you can just feel the dread on the stages. He is revealed to be the cause of Xant's power. You see, when Xant was angry at being turned down as the Twilight King, Ganondorf appeared to him, disguising himself as a god. He uses Xant as a puppet, as he always does. Ganondorf was given the Triforce of Power as a divine prank, so this seems to have given Ganondorf a god complex. He's finally confronted in person at the end of the game at Hyrule Castle. Ganondorf in this game is very different from his Wind Waker counterpart. While Ganondorf in that game had time to reflect on how his attempts to conquer Hyrule had led to its destruction, this Ganondorf had never really experienced this. Link and Zelda were able to arrest him before he could make his move, thus all he's known is a desire for power, and he barely knows who this boy in green is this time around. In fact, more of his dialogue is directed at Midna, viewing the Twilight as a lesser race. This Ganondorf is perhaps Beast Ganon in human form. Ganon is fought in 4 phases. First, he possesses Zelda, which is actually a unique twist, but after being expelled from Zelda's body, he takes a different form of Ganon, a bipedal one. That's never been done before. This was done to give Ganon a contrast to Link's wolf form. In fact, the trick is to fight him beast to beast. The stab wound on his chest remains, and it's his weak point. But even that is not the end of him. I'm not sure what the deal is with the spirit form, as he's never done this before, but this is easily the most resilient Ganon's ever been. The third stage is Link and Zelda on Epona fighting Ganondorf on horseback, and this is probably my favorite part of the whole battle as it's something new. But even this doesn't kill him. It really highlights just how much Ganondorf dwarfs Link in height. Yet it makes Link overpowering him all the more impressive. In a speech that was largely excised from the final release, Ganondorf would curse Link and Zelda's heritage with his bloodline, which would have explained how another Ganondorf was able to be born in Four Swords Adventures. You gotta give the guy credit for standing up with a sword in your chest. But like his Wind Waker counterpart, Ganondorf effectively dies as himself. In his first appearances, we have effectively seen 3 sides to Ganondorf. In Ocarina of Time, he was between the man and the monster, while Wind Waker focused on the man, Twilight Princess focused on the monster. But at this point, Ganon was on the verge of being overused, so Nintendo quite wisely decided to give him a rest for a while, but I didn't expect it would last as long as it did.